This is the story of the Rangers, the most successful club in Scottish football history, from their humble beginnings in 1873 to the unique position they now occupy as one of the most famous and respected names in the game. A name known throughout the football world, and a club who are proud of their tradition. Not just of successes in cup finals and league championships, of famous goals and European triumphs, but a tradition of having played the game a certain way, the Rangers way, with skill and speed certainly, but also with great strength and determination. A club who have always had outstanding players. Scottish soccer's Hall of Fame is full of men who have worn a Rangers jersey. You have to go back to the very beginnings of this great club to try to find the reasons for the rise of Rangers and how they were able to command the loyalty of so many lovers of the game. For the size and enthusiasm of Rangers support is legendary. Today they remain the best supported club in Scotland and probably in Britain. Wherever Rangers play, even on the other side of the world, you will find fans who have followed on. In some ways, the history of Rangers is virtually the history of Scottish football, inevitably so as Scotland's most successful club, and certainly more Rangers players have represented their country than those of any other team. Today, just as at any other time over the last 100 years or so, thousands of Scottish schoolboys dream of the day they will pull a light blue jersey over their heads and run proudly out onto the Ibrox pitch to play in a stadium which is unquestionably among the most impressive in the world. Now one of Glasgow's distinctive landmarks, it stands proudly on the same site on the southwest of the city where Rangers have played since 1899, a testimony to the club's success over the decades. The interior is no less impressive, the historic Blue Room where some of the great names of the past have sat and talked football. The Trophy Room, where the painting of former manager Bill Struth looks down on a treasure trove of football memories, the most unusual perhaps being a French racing cycle presented to the club by Saint Etienne. In the huge display cases, a glittering array of silver, crystal and china. The Boardroom, all wood-panelled elegance, a very long way from the corner of Glasgow where it all began, literally on the banks of the Clyde. This is Glasgow Green, and it was here in the summer of 1873 that a group of youngsters whose main interest until then had been rowing became fascinated by the new game of football. Among them were the McNeill brothers, and it was Moses McNeill who became the leading light in the new club, who, although they played their first match in July 1873 as Glasgow Argyle, were quickly renamed Glasgow Rangers, ironically after an English rugby team Moses McNeill had read about. In 1874 they played their first Scottish Cup tie against the Oxford at Queen's Park Recreation Ground, and then a year later moved for just one season to their own ground called Burn Bank, just off Great Western Road. From there to their new ground at Kinning Park, which today has been superseded by the M8 motorway. In 1877 Rangers reached the Scottish Cup final where they took the mighty Vale of Leven to a second replay before losing 3-2. The decade afterwards was a period of consolidation, but in August 1887 they moved to their new home at the first Ibrox Park and celebrated with a challenge match against Preston North End. Soon afterwards William Wilton became match secretary, then at the turn of the century became the club's manager for the following 20 years. In 1894 Rangers celebrated their first Scottish Cup victory, a 3-1 win over Celtic at Hampden. Then in 1897 an even greater achievement. Rangers won the 3 cups available at that time, the Glasgow Cup, the Scottish Cup and the Charity Cup. In 1899 Rangers became Scottish League champions for only the second time, with the astonishing record played 18, won 18, the only time it has ever been done. The same season Rangers moved home once again to the present Ibrox Stadium. This is the original grandstand. And so Rangers moved into the new century. League championship wins were plentiful, but the Scottish Cup always proved elusive. In 1928, when they faced Celtic in the final, Rangers hadn't won the Cup for 25 years. Their inside left that day was one of their all-time greats, Bob McPhail. Why the nerves before the match?
Because of the hoodoo that existed with Rangers. Cup finals they couldn't win, and everyone went out geared up. It was a good game, and I believe Celtic were just having the better of it when Paddy Connolly got the ball and he fired in a terrific shot. It was going into the side net when Hamilton dived across and touched it past for a corner. we seemed to relish the let off, and we came down and we got a penalty. David Meiklejohn put the onus on himself, being captain of the team. He took the kick and scored. Another incident I can remember was I scored. Now I can't just remember if it was the second or third goal. We won by 4-1, and there was a ball just at my distance, 2 yards out, and I hit it. And after I hit it, I scored with it. Jimmy Fleming said to me, he says, "You took that ball off my foot." I said, "Yes, but it's safer where it is."
And so the hoodoo was ended, and Rangers went from strength to strength in the decade that followed. This side were among the most skillful and powerful ever to wear Rangers colours, and in the summer after ending the hoodoo they toured America and Canada, footballing ambassadors for Scotland. Their record in North America: played 14, won 14, captained by Davy Meiklejohn. Another of the great Rangers of the time was the peerless Alan Morton, the wee blue devil, said to be the greatest outside left in the world at the time. Tommy Muirhead captained the Rangers team in 1930, which won every tournament they entered. He's seen here flanked by MacDonald and MacPhail. By now, of course, Rangers were managed by the immortal Bill Struth, who's seen here holding the cup Rangers won in 1932 by beating Kilmarnock. Also in that side was centre-forward Sam English, who set a record that season which has never been equalled, scoring no fewer than 44 league goals in one season. And Bob MacPhail was still scoring goals too. In this cup final in 1936, it was MacPhail who scored the only goal to give Rangers the cup for the third season in a row. On the far left of the back row is another of the Rangers greats, Jerry Dawson, the prince of goalkeepers.
Jerry was a most peculiar fella. When a corner kick or anything was being taken against us, he used to tell us, "Get out of here, leave this to me." And he had that area, the 6-yard area, he covered it. He was, as I say, he was the worst kicker of a ball ever I've known. The ball would be on the 6-yard line, and he took he came at it at an angle, with the result that he was cutting it, and when it came to you, it was burling, and that's why, as I say, I've no hair left.
This is one of the earliest films on record, showing the Rangers side of 1937 playing Queen of the South at Palmerston. The 30s had been a golden era for the Ibrox side, but as the Second World War approached, the team was being gradually recast. Stalwarts like Bob MacPhail, Dougie Gray, Jimmy Simpson, Jimmy Smith and George Brown were nearing the twilight of their playing careers. But future stars were arriving, like Jock Shaw, Willie Waddle, Scott Simon and Jimmy Duncanson. They were able to merge with Willie Woodburn and Willie Thornton, and were soon to be joined by George Young. This is a Rangers lineup of 1940, and although football during the war years had to be organised on a different basis, Rangers went on collecting trophies. And then as peace came to Europe and football got back to normal, came a match which no one who saw it will ever forget. In November 1945, the mighty Russians of Moscow Dynamo came to Ibrox, described by many as like visitors from another planet. But Rangers were equal to the Russian challenge. George Young got the penalty which gave Rangers a 2-2 draw.
Everybody that I speak to nowadays, when they talk about the penalty kick and that, they always say, well, I plunked school that day to see that game. And I always say to them, well, if you plunked school to see the game, I must have plunked school too to play in it.
Yeah, they were a marvellous team, Moscow Dynamo, and there was something new, completely new to us in their personality and their character. And they were more systemised than we were. They had learned the game as though they'd went to school to learn the game, whereas we just grew up with it. And they were marvellous players. And we played Motherwell at Fair Park just a few days previous to Moscow Dynamo playing here, and they had come to watch us, just to size up how we played. And Torrey played well that day, And when we came back and played here, there was the whole game. The fella never, the wing half never left Torry 6 inches space, and Torry used to get a wee bit frustrated in that kind of situation. And he went start raining mad against the Russians.
I had been injured for about 2 months prior to that with an Achilles tendon, and as I came out on the Saturday to play against Sparta Thistle, I played on the Tuesday against the Moscow Dynamo. The Tuesday or the Wednesday we played, and I had the chance that day, or the luck that day, to score the penalty kick. Poor Willie next door, he missed one. But it was good to see Big Smithy kick Tiger Comic the ball into the back of the net for our first one, and the second one I got from a penalty kick, and then a minute from time Charlie Watkins hit the post. Very, very unfortunate not to win that day. But the Russians didn't take much time to get way back home to Russia after that game.
4 years later, Rangers won the Cup and League Cup with this pool of players, which included some famous names. As well as Young and Waddle, there was Ian McCall, Willie Woodburn, Bobby Brown and Jock Shaw.
They always talked about the famous five, Hibs famous five. They never talked about the Rangers famous five. You know, Wilkie and Waddle and Gillick, Thornton, Benters, Kinnear. It was always the famous five. It wasn't the famous five of the Rangers, because we were always on top. That was
because there are not many of them now getting a ball in the wing and being out wide. They're inclined now just when they get there to play it. They don't look whether it should be front post or back post or outside the area a bit where somebody. I could judge where Thornton was going to be just by a mere glance where Thornton is and know the weight to put on the cross ball, and he had the instinct of reading the flight. Thornton was great at reading the flight of a ball, the pace of the ball, the height of the ball, whether to go forward or back to it. Thornton had great instinct for that, and we just clicked from the day we came here, near enough the same time. We just clicked, and Willie Thornton and I are still the greatest of pals.
But Willie Waddle had this unique quality of he could cross a ball on the run. He didn't have to stop, and he'd do great feet. And there was this common just understanding that we had, which was proved very successful for ourselves and for the Rangers Football Club.
Rangers manager since 1920 had been Bill Struth, a distinguished man who was proud of having made Rangers into the biggest and the most successful club in the country. He set great store by Rangers traditions and expected his players to do the same.
I got home from school, received a telegram from Bill Struth saying, "Report to Brockville tonight with your boots." So I went along to Brockville, Falkirk, with my boots. I was getting ready for the game when Bill Struth approached me, looked at me and said, "How much do I pay you a week, boy?" And you addressed everyone in those days as sir, your school teachers, or your school headmaster. So I said, £1 a week, sir. He said, "Well, any boy that can polish his boots like that deserves more than £1 a week. From now on you're getting £2 a week." And to my eternal shame, I couldn't tell him I never polished my boots in my life. My mother did it for me. If you were going to pictures, Struth had you well warned that as a Rangers player you had to go to the best seats, you had to go into the dress circle, not the front stalls, and yet there's some days he wouldn't pay you. We used to come up to the door there some days, and we were paid every other Tuesday, every second Tuesday we were paid, and we were all needing a ball or two in these days. And he used to go up the door and the buzzer would go, enter, and so in you go, and, "Well, what is it?" "Well, it's wages day, Mr. Struth." "Well, they're not ready, you'll get them at the end of the week, off." And that was us. And we didn't dislike the man for that, or we didn't feel he was no giving us our money. We always got it at the end of the day, but just when it come up his hump. And but with a tremendous respect for him.
In 1954 came the end of an era at Ibrox. Bill Struth, then in his 78th year, retired, having won 18 league titles and 10 Scottish Cups. George Young made the presentation on behalf of the players. Struth's successor was the former Rangers halfback James Scotland Simon, who had already enjoyed managerial success with East Fife and with Preston North End, whom he had taken to a Wembley Cup final. Simon was a different character to Struth, but equally respected by his players. One of his greatest signings was a Wraith Rovers wing half called Jim Baxter.
And I remember McNaught saying, when you go through there, don't haggle, just sign, no matter what they're giving you, sign and they'll look after you, that's for sure. And that was the first thing, coming here looking at that marble saying, I looked at my dad and he said, that we go. Mr. Simon came down, old Scot at the time, he was a real thoroughbred of a man, you know. And that was it, up into the office, and it was all over in 2 minutes. Well, you always remember the important games, but I remember one game at Firhill, talking about myself actually. We played Partick Thistle, I think we won 6-0 or something. And it was absolutely, you were up to your ankles in mud. And I always liked wearing rubber boots. And I remember old Scott giving me a bollocking for wearing the boots, you know, and I says, I'll be quite happy in numbers. They were all putting studs in that size. And I had their rubber boots on. Well, it was one of these games, no matter what I did, it come off. I mean, just one of these games, I was stopping the ball, I was keeping up, I was nutmegging them, I was doing everything. It was all coming off for me. And old Simon at the end of the game, old Scott was like that, Jim, you'll never cease to amaze me. Everyone's sluthering about out there with studs about 2 inches and you're playing with rubber boots. You'll never cease to amaze me, Jim. That was old Scott.
Scott Simon also took Rangers into the European era. In season 56-57 they made their debut in the European Cup, meeting the French champions Nice. Rangers won at Ibrox but lost in the French Riviera, and then also lost the toss for the playoff, which took place in Paris and was lost 3-1. But Rangers had learned from the experience, and in 1960 came within one match of reaching the European Cup final at Hampden against Real Madrid. Sadly though, they were heavily beaten by a superb team, Eintracht Frankfurt, in the two-legged semi-final. Rangers though had arrived as a European force and confirmed that by reaching the final of the European Cup Winners' Cup. They lost 4-1 in aggregate, but the two matches are remembered well by a great Rangers captain of the time, Bobby Shearer.
That was, we played Florentina. Yeah, they beat us here with the odd goal, and they beat us out in Florence with the odd goal as well. And that was the night of the famous penalty kick when the goalkeeper came running out to the penalty spot to save Eric Caldwell's penalty and put Eric off. But that was the early taste of the European Cups, and we had a good run the European Cups. We had some disaster as well, playing Eintracht and playing Real Madrid, you know, but Real Madrid was just a team out of this world during the 60s.
The Rangers side of the early 60s was a successful one, full of skill and goal-scoring ability. This is the League Cup winning side of 1960. Then in the 1962 close season, Rangers set out on a great adventure, a tour of Russia, which was a tremendous triumph for the club. The fans turned out in their thousands at Renfrew Airport to welcome home the undefeated team. In 1963, Rangers reached the cup final again, having won it the previous year by beating St Mirren. Their opponents this time, though, were Celtic.
Nice cross. Oh, Miller, how did you miss that one? Well, it's a goal kick and Happy looks relieved. Gregg. Game's getting scrambly just now. There's not much combined football in it. McKinnon, Baxter. To Gregg. No, it's McLean. It's Proven. This is the thing, keeping the ball moving, making it work. Brand. Well, he was lucky to get that one back again. Brand, Miller. To Henderson, and all the Celtic defence in the wrong place. And Brand scored. Well, if you can't see that goal, it's because we've got nothing but Rangers supporters standing here. And with 3 minutes to half time, that neat little bit of football puts Rangers ahead by 1-0. McNamee taking the throw to Divers. Mackay clearing. Murdoch coming through, and here's Hughes. Hughes should score. No, but Murdoch does. And there you see who they're supporting on this side.
The match drawn 1 each, but Rangers made no mistake in the Wednesday replay, winning by 3-0 through a goal by Davy Wilson and 2 by Ralph Brand. At this point in the early 60s, Rangers had very much the ascendancy over their great rivals. In fact, they went 6 seasons without losing a league match to Celtic, including this win at Parkhead.
McNeil. Oh, McNeil, a bad pass back. Here's Forrest, a gift chance. Wow, no wonder Billy McNeil is standing in dejection because of anybody ever presented a goal to a Rangers man. It was McNeil. Little Jim Forrest squirted on there, the easiest of chances to score his first ever match. Kinnan sends it skidding across to Provan. Baxter. Brilliantly through to McLean. McLean scores a brilliant piece of leading up work by Baxter. Brand, and swimming away from a very wash tackling McNamee. Henderson. Forrest must score, and he does. Forrest scores his second and Rangers' third. At the end of the day, he had the easiest of tasks, but again he looked very cool, calm and collected as he shot the ball into the goal.
And so to the 1964 Cup Final, with Rangers looking for their third successive victory. A 2-0 quarter-final win over Celtic paved the way for a final against Dundee, watched by almost 121,000 fans.
Miller heads it in. It's a goal! Miller has scored for Rangers. The Dundee defence flat-footed. The ball headed in very simply. And it's one of the most unexpected and dramatic goals we've ever seen. 19 and a half minutes to go. Jimmy Miller heads the ball into the net. The simplest of simple goals. Great rolls of it. Used indeed the other end. What a chance here. The young boy tries it. It is a goal! Cameron scores for Dundee. What a game. What a final. What a match. About 90 seconds to go. The free kick to Rangers. Henderson at outside left collects it from Baxter. Henderson inside the box, chips it to the far post. Miller's there. And the ball's in the net. Miller scores in the last minute for Rangers. 2-1 for Rangers in the last minute of the game. Miller again the scorer. Rangers 2, Dundee 1. Dundee have done it once. Can they do it a second time? Cousin shoves it forward. Comes through to Gregg. Henderson. Brand. Henderson again. Through to Brand. Wilson coming through as the extra forward. Left foot shot. A great save by Slater. Brand must score. 3-1. 2 goals in the last 60 seconds. Hampden aflame with excitement.
That season, Rangers did the treble, winning the League and League Cup as well, and so they were back in the European Cup. Red Star Belgrade were beaten in a playoff at Highbury, and Rapid Vienna beaten 1-0 at Ibrox and 2-0 away, Forrest and Wilson getting the goals. Tragically though, Jim Baxter broke his leg right in the final whistle. Rangers' next opponents were the then World Club champions, the great Inter Milan. After a 3-1 defeat in Milan, this Jim Forrest goal gave Rangers a 1-0 victory at Ibrox. It wasn't enough though to keep Rangers in the tournament. There was consolation for the fans that season as Rangers lifted the League Cup and also won the Ibrox League match with Celtic.
Forrest. Beck. Johnston, a nice pass by Beck, but a good tackle by Young. Rangers' fourth corner. And the ball driven in by Forrest. Headed forward by Miller. Forrest scores. Rangers 1, Celtic 0. 33 minutes played. Johnston, Miller, Forrest. Making allowance for injury stoppages. Johnston. Tackled by Beck. Beck, how did you picture the ball to be going to the net? White, there he is lying on the ground. Johnston's having his name taken. Mr. Wharton following Johnson across. Second player. Ordering him up. Johnson being ordered off. Hughes. Gregg, who tackled him. Hughes getting away with the ball. Gregg tackling from behind. Hughes going through. Penalty kick. Very sound decision by Mr. Wharton. An obvious penalty there as Hughes brought down in the penalty area. What a chance this is for them to equalise. See the excitement and the terracing just behind the Rangers goal. Bobby Murdoch going to take it.
Final score 1-0. By that time, of course, Rangers were without Jim Baxter, in his day one of the greatest players in the world, and sadly that broken leg in Vienna hastened the end of his Ibrox career. In 1965, Sunderland paid £80,000 to take Slim Jim south. Everyone at Ibrox was sad to see him go.
And of course, when you come to the left half, what can you say about Baxter? I mean, he shouldn't have been on a field, he should have been on a stage, he was just an entertainer. I think Baxter was the most all-round and most cultured player I'd ever played with during my career.
That was a great, these were the occasions of the Rangers-Celtic game is a fantastic game to play in. And, but the thing, the 5 years, the first 5 years that I had at Ibrox, I think we lost once to Celtic and all the time we played, so I mean, it can't be bad, and you must enjoy that. You don't enjoy getting beat, but at that time we had the sort of the better team, and it was no problem beating Celtic really at that time, and that was, I used to love it. We used to, about every player in the team loved it at that time. And when we used to get I mean, for one time, every game they played, 20 minutes ago, the Parkhead end was empty more or less, and of course the Bears were going potty at the other end, you know, like it is, and it was lovely.
The following season, 1966, Celtic, under their new manager Jock Stein, took the league title. Rangers were second. The same two met in the cup final. The teams drew nothing each on the Saturday, a fine performance by Rangers, who had begun the match as underdogs. Then on the Wednesday night, almost 100,000 turned up for the replay.
And it's Simpson. To and fro. She says, get it upfield. Centre forward shouldn't let the centre half run away from him like that. Johansson to Miller. Into Wilson. We're almost halfway through the second half. Still no scoring. Gregg. Certainly Celtic go deep in defence. Chalmers to Hughes. When he gets going, he's difficult to stop. And there's his shot. Ball's out. Well, according to Mr. Wharton, it was out. Inside forward Johnston. Well, I don't know how McLean missed that one. And somebody's foot stopped that one. And there's a goal by Johansson. Well, there it is. Johansson, the first Danish player ever to appear in a cup final, and he is celebrated by scoring the first goal.
That cup win entitled Rangers to a place in the European Cup Winners' Cup in 1967, and for the second time Rangers went all the way to the final, only to lose 1-0 to Bayern Munich in extra time. The Rangers team that night: Martin, Johansson and Proven, Jardine, McKinnon and Gregg, Henderson, Alex Smith, Hind, Dave Smith and Willie Johnston. On the 2nd of January 1971 came the blackest day in Rangers' long history. 66 people died on the steps leading from the East Terracing at the end of the traditional New Year's game with Celtic. The club was represented at dozens of funerals in the days afterwards. And no one who was at Ibrox that terrible afternoon will ever forget the enormity of the tragedy. And yet, just 9 months after that awful day, Rangers set out on the path to their greatest triumph in the European Cup Winners' Cup. French Cup holders Rennes were beaten 2-1 in aggregate by a Rangers team now managed by Willie Waddle and coached by Jock Wallace. Portugal's Sporting Lisbon were beaten on the away goals roll. And in the quarter-final against Torino, a Willie Johnston goal gave Rangers a 1-1 draw in Italy. Alec MacDonald got the only goal at Ibrox. In the semi-final, Rangers took revenge for their 1967 final defeat by beating Bayern Munich. Again, a 1-1 draw away from home was followed by an Ibrox victory, Jardine and Parlane getting the goals in a 2-0 win. Rangers were in the final for the third time in their history.
I think the European tour that Rangers went through that year, Stade Rennes, Torino, Sporting Lisbon, Bayern Munich and Moscow Dynamo, was the hardest, the most difficult European tournament that any team has ever played in, because there were 5 smashing teams. Stade Rennes, we were the skin of our teeth we got through in France, and Torino. Anyway, go to Italy and do what they did, and then worst of all was the Sporting Lisbon one, where it blew in our faces, and Ronnie McKinnon broke his leg. And then to Bayern with the talent and the reputation they had, to beat them in a semi-final of a tournament was fantastic. I think probably the 4 previous games were more of a feat. Any one of them was more of a feat than winning in the final. And the Rangers won that tournament basically because they played so well away from home.
The venue for the final was the Camp Nou Stadium in Barcelona. 26,000 fans saw the game. At least 25,000 of those were Rangers fans who had made the journey to Spain. And in the end, they got the result they had come to see.
And it might well be that the jelly, the kind of nervous jelly, is going out of Rangers' legs now. One hopes so. Johnston just missing that. Willie Matheson. Johnston. John Gregg. Gregg. Good tackle by Gregg. Colin Steen. Steen going in and impeded by the referee. And nevertheless, Rangers picking up the pace of the game now. This is what we want to see from them. I think they've let the Russians play around in a kind of academic way far too long, and I'm inclined to take this. Good one to that far side. It's touched away there by Zykov. Evrazin. Jardine Den. No whistle. Dave Smith has it towards Colin Steen. Here's Steen. It's a goal! It's a goal by Steen. What a goal! What a goal by Steen. And on come the fans. Oh, they'll have to get off. Here it comes. What a goal by Steen. He followed that up. And woof, in it goes. McLean with it. The neat ball to Derek Johnston. Steen. Alfie Conn. John Gregg. Here's Dave Smith. Smith going up. It's a good ball, it's a goal. It's a goal by Willie Johnston. It's a goal by Johnston, and this time the Rangers supporters aren't coming on, thankfully. But there it is, watch it, number 2 this time. The Russian defence cut out in the middle. Willie Johnston's up there, a neat flick, and the goalkeeper completely deceived. Rangers 2-0 up. 39 minutes gone. To Con. Rangers will be quite content to keep possession of the ball into the second half, as long as that score remains. Steen, and here's Willie Johnston with a chance, and it's a goal. It's a goal by Johnston, right out of the blue. Rangers 3 up, incredibly 3 up. The start of the second half. Here it comes now. Watch how the Russian defence was absolutely cut out. Down towards Johnston, and he comes in at the back. They look towards the linesman. They picked his spot. Looked as if he might have hit it too late, but no, the goalkeeper slow going down. And there we are, Rangers 3-0 up. Here's Matheson, and that's a bad one. The great chance for the Russians. And that's a goal. Number 13 has scored. Estrakov, the substitute. And a bad mistake by Matheson. And no wonder John Gregg's having a word with them. Watch this now. Rangers playing it too cocky. Jardin and the Russians reduce the leeway. And 13 taking up good position, and it's 3-1. Now number 10, Mahonyakov. And it's a goal. It's a great goal by Dynamo. I think it was by Dakini, I'm not sure. Here it is again, the Rangers defence sleeping there. That was number 10, Mahonyakov, who scored. Dynamo 2, Rangers 3. And I make it about 3 minutes left. What a tremendous game it's been, and all credit to the Russians for fighting back at Rangers. A tremendous victory for them, the first time in many, many years of fighting. They've got a European trophy, the European Cup Winners' Cup.
Sadly, the Spanish police completely overreacted as celebrating Scots flooded onto the pitch after the final whistle, and Captain John Gregg was presented with Rangers' first European trophy in the dressing room. Then it was back to Scotland and a rainy Prestwick airport, with the fans gathering all along the route to pay tribute to their heroes. The Rangers team that famous night: McCloy, Jardin and Matheson, Gregg, Derek Johnston and Smith, McLean and Conn, Steen, MacDonald and Willie Johnston.
John, how are you feeling at this particular moment, having got the cup back now at last to Scotland?
Delighted. Can't wait to get to Ibrox.
How do you feel now today about the end of the match last night, the astonishing scenes that we saw at the stadium?
I think the supporters got a little bit excited, but well, they've waited a long time, and we hope they're not getting too much trouble because of it.
Now, John, at one point you were 3 goals up and looked very comfortable. All of a sudden you were 3-2 ahead and time running out fast. Did you think the game was slipping away from you in the closing moments of the match?
Well, I was a bit worried, but I was glad to hear the final whistle.
Now, that injury of yours that you've been getting treatment for, were you really 100% fit last night, quite honestly?
Well, I wouldn't like to say. I'll leave others to say that.
Colin, you haven't scored 2 more important goals for a long, long time. Which of the 2 was the vital one, you think? The first one or the one you got later on?
I only scored one.
Oh, sorry, beg your pardon. What game was I at? You know, that's right.
Just testing after. You missed it again after, didn't you?
What about lunch 2 goals?
Oh, it's fantastic. Come at the right time, just before half-time, just after half-time. I think I really killed them.
A lot of the lads, I think, looked as if they were tiring a wee bit towards the end of the match. I think that's fair comment.
Yeah, I think we put a lot of effort in the game, and they brought 2 fresh men on, and I think that made a difference for them. Because
were you surprised, do you think, at the quality of the 2 substitutes who came on, Colin?
I was surprised at the quality of number 13. I thought he was a very good player.
Who scored the first goal?
Yeah.
Derek Johnson, this was a tough game for you, your first European Cup final. How did you feel in that first 15 minutes? I thought you played particularly well, actually. How are you feeling?
Oh, great. The inside left I was playing against, he was a slow reader of the ball, I just got in front of him all the time, and that was...
By the time the team coach had reached Ibrox, thousands of fans had gathered to salute the team, who proudly paraded the European Cup Winners' Cup around the stadium. The supporters stood, sang and cheered in the rain. No one wanted to go home that night. After Barcelona, Willie Waddell took on a new role, that of general manager, with Jock Wallace stepping up to take charge of team affairs. And so Rangers began their 100th year, with Jock Wallace at the helm, and he took the team to the centenary Scottish Cup final, appropriately against Celtic.
It's a goal! A beautiful goal by Dalglish. Here's Matheson. Andy McDonald, 11 minutes to half time. It's a good ball, it's a goal! Thailand the scorer. Here's Quinton Young for Rangers. As towards Con. Con going through. And it's there. The goal for Rangers. Logan for Celtic. Up to Callaghan. That's a good ball to Johnston. And here's Deans with a chance. No, what's been given? Tremendous confusion in the Rangers goal out there. And it looks like a penalty kick. It's a penalty. Penalty to Celtic. George Connolly to take it. This is a vital one for Celtic. And he's done it. That's the equaliser. And it's in there. It's there. Forsyth getting the final touch. It looked as if the ball was going in any case. And it's 3-2 for Rangers.
A goal Tom Forsyth will never forget, and a marvellous memory for one of Rangers' outstanding players during the 70s. 3 years later, in season 75-76, an Alec MacDonald goal gave Rangers the League Cup, beating Celtic in the final, and they then went on to win the Premier Division by a margin of 6 points, again from Celtic. And so to the Scottish Cup final against Hearts, with Rangers getting a great start in their bid for the treble.
A cup final against Hearts was scored in the first minute, 40 seconds or so. We've been scoring goals regular, just getting the ball down the wing and across, and it just happened again, and it was as if it was ordained to come here for the treble, you know. And I didn't realise that, but I wanted to do the treble for the Rangers and for my own satisfaction, because I was pretty psyched up at that time. It didn't mean a lot. It was just a lot of words till we actually done it, you know. And I think the fact that we managed to get a treble was a tremendous performance for that team.
The Rangers side in that 1976 Cup final win was McCloy, Miller and Gregg, Forsyth, Jackson, MacDonald, McKean, Hamilton, Henderson, McLean and Johnston. Derek Johnston scored twice and Alec MacDonald once in a 3-1 win. Surprisingly, the season after that treble was a barren one, but in 1978 Rangers were back at Hampden for the League Cup final against Celtic.
Smith going on the outside but running into trouble, turns it out in front. Cooper scores! Cooper scores for Rangers. 6 minutes from half time. Dave Cooper's 7th goal of the season, made by Gordon Smith. Out to McLean. Free kick to Rangers. Donald looking up into the sun for that one. This is Aiken. O'Dye. McCluskey. Snedden who's onside, that's a good move. Edvaldsen, goal! Out of nothing, Celtic score! Edvaldsen, his 10th goal of the season. 5 minutes to go, and Celtic from nowhere have fought back and scored a tremendous equaliser. Three minutes remaining. Smith to Johnston. Miller coming up as the extra man. There's his cross. There's Latchford, the ball spinning loose. Headed in by Smith, and the referee's giving a goal. Gordon Smith scores. 3 minutes from the end of extra time. His 23rd goal of the season. And for the second time in the match, Rangers go into the lead.
Gordon Smith's goal proving decisive in Rangers' 2-1 win. And the league was won too by a 2-point margin from Aberdeen. Rangers lost only 5 of their 36 matches. And so for the second time in just 3 seasons, the impossible dream of all 3 trophies was on again. In the Scottish Cup final, Rangers' opponents were the highly talented Aberdeen side who had pushed them so hard in the League Championship. Did Jock Wallace have any fears about the third leg of the treble?
Terrible fear. It was that Robert Russell would freeze on the day because he had froze against Celtic on the first game at Parkhead, and we got beat 1-0 that night. Not down to him, just I was a wee feeling that he would freeze on the day. It was a big deal because don't forget Cooper and Smith and him had just their first year had virtually won a treble, you know. So anyway, we scored there in the doors, and we got another good goal, and we virtually ran out winners. We just cruised through the last bit, and I mean a daft goal. They were playing a daft goal getting scored against Rangers, and I was a wee bit upset about that. But it just shows you just how meticulous your planning can be. You forget your opponents in the last day. Now that could have been pressure to work or bother about tickets, whatever, but it worked out well because when I thought about it, it was still fresh in my mind. It was still fresh on Friday, still fresh on Saturday, and we called the shots, got a great result, and tremendous feeling to do 2 trebles. I mean, if you do 1 treble, it could be a fluke or a bad year or a great year. To do 2 with virtually the same team says a lot for their players.
Yes, to win that treble twice in 3 years must rank as one of Rangers' greatest achievements. So it was all the more surprising that Jock Wallace left the club to manage Leicester City. The new manager was perhaps Rangers' greatest player of the 60s and 70s, that inspiring captain, John Greig. After the 1978 Cup final, Greig had thought about giving it 1 more season before retiring. Instead, he found himself in the manager's chair, his playing days behind him full of successes for club and country. And there were goals too, perhaps most memorably his 1965 goal for Scotland against Italy in the World Cup.
Here's Greig coming in, on to Brand. Greig again, it's a goal, and that makes it 3.
Now John Greig, a beautiful ball towards O'Hara. He's on his own. There's McLean coming up. Looking for support inside. Cross not hard enough. John Greig. Whoa, what a goal! Scott missing out on that. Here's McLean to John Greig. What a goal!
Play by Russell. Greig might think about a shot. Plays a shot 1. Greig still going and scoring!
But now it was John Greig manager, and in his first season Rangers had a thrilling European Cup run, beginning with victory in the first round over the mighty Juventus of Italy.
Russell. There's a goal. Gordon Smith.
telling the Italian defensive wall to get right back. Klein with it and still not satisfied, the referee. Rangers with a pre-planned move. There's Forsyth with it. Here's a great chance for Smith. And there's a goal! Alec MacDonald.
Juventus beaten 2-0 at Ibrox and 2-1 on aggregate. In the second round, Rangers could only draw nothing each at home to PSV Eindhoven, but in Holland, Rangers pulled off a marvellous win by 3-2. Alec MacDonald got the first, and how many vital goals he's scored for Rangers over the years. Derek Johnston, number 2, with this header from a Kenny Watson thunderbolt. And then a marvellous third and clinching goal, laid on by Tommy McLean and scored by Bobby Russell. Despite the win though, Rangers' run ended in the quarter-finals when Cologne won by the odd goal and 3. Since 1976, Rangers had reached every Scottish Cup final, and in 1981 pulled off one of their most convincing cup wins in the replay against Dundee United.
That's the opener from Davy Cooper. 10 minutes on the clock. Davy Cooper puts Rangers in front. Look at the joy on the faces of these Rangers players and of their supporters.
So there's Derek Johnston. Cooper playing it in. Bobby Russell makes it 2. And that really was a wicked free kick from Davy Cooper. 20 minutes gone, 2-0 to Rangers. Bannon's free kick punched away by Stewart. Another chance for Bannon. The stirrup. Playing it in towards Dodds. 2-1. Davy Dodds puts United back in the match. And a chance for Bet. Russell followed by Kirkwood. Missed by Copel, but not by Neri. Good turn from Cooper. McDonald wants it inside the fullback. John McDonald. A superb goal from John McDonald. 3-1 to Rangers, 28 minutes gone. Bannon not happy at being fouled. Reacts rather badly. Near the chance for McDonald. And that surely tied it up for Rangers. John McDonald, second of the night. 4-1 to Rangers.
The Rangers team in that 4-1 win was Stewart, Jardine, Stevens, Forsyth and Dawson, Russell, Bett and Redford, Cooper, Derek Johnston and MacDonald. Captain Ali Dawson proudly tied the ribbons to the Scottish Cup. One of Rangers' stars that May night in 1981 was winger Davy Cooper, a player very much in the old Rangers style, a wizard of the dribble like Alan Morton, Willie Waddle, Willie Henderson or Willie Johnston, the kind of player the fans like to see, a ball player with the ability to beat a man and get his cross in, a player highly thought of by the man who brought him to Ibrox, Jock Wallace.
I don't particularly treat Davy Cooper by any way I treat anybody else, you know. I treat him fair. If he makes a mistake, he's told in a constructive way, criticised in a constructive way. If you done that, you might not have done this, you know, that kind of bit. And from the day one, Dave and I have clicked. And when I signed him for Rangers, and it was a bit of a troublemaker, I said, I can't be bought with troublemakers in the dressing room. He says, you won't have any cause to regret saying me, because you'll have no problems with me. And I've never had a problem with Dave Cooper. If he's got something to say to me, he comes and sees me. If I've got something to say to him, I say it to him in front of people, or if it's a private matter, in private, you know. But there's Davy Cooper to me is a genius, but he still gets the same treatment as the rest of the players as far as conditioning was concerned, as praise is concerned, and constructive criticism is concerned. I don't see that. Him and I just get on well, and I would think that's the main part of the story as far as we're concerned. You know.
Cooper is something special that the public would have liked to have seen a great Cooper in an international team because of his individual talents, because Cooper doesn't fit into any plans. Cooper just plays the game as he knows how to play it. Cooper will not have learned very much since he was 5, 6 or 7 years of age. He just had that instinct. And I was lucky. I played with a lot of fellas with that same kind of inborn instincts, like Gillick and Thornton and these fellas.
In season 1981-82, Rangers again met Jim McLean's Dundee United in a cup final, this time the League Cup, and Cooper was to have a hand in both Rangers' goals, but not until United had gone one up.
1-0 for Dundee United. Cooper shaping to take this. I try and chip it in, and he does, he scored! Cooper equalises for Rangers. Cooper with it. Hegarty, there's Redford, tries a chip, and it's there! Redford, a brilliant goal!
Another trophy for Ibrox, but in the autumn of 1983, manager John Gregg resigned after a string of bad results. And Jock Wallace, who had come back to Scottish football from Leicester to manage Motherwell, returned to Ibrox to manage the club he had always supported. At the same time, a boardroom reshuffle saw John Payton take over as chairman of the club he had supported all his life. For both men, the great traditions of the Rangers Football Club remained as important as they had ever been.
I'd like to retain all the traditions that Rangers have. You know, there's a big family here. You've got Bobby Malloch, I think they're in the 3rd or 4th generation. You've got Lizzie, the tea lady, 3rd or 4th generation. How can you change these things? Nobody would dream of changing them. Having a rapport with Jock Wallace is the biggest single thing. I think every club, successful club, it's been a manager and chairman combination, and I hope to have that. We have got it. Jock and I, you know, we got on like a house on fire. He's no big joke, by the way. He's wee joke to me. I'm bigger than he is.
I think they're more important now, the traditions of the club, in the sense that people are wanting to identify with discipline and a respectful kind of thing, you know. I would say the players at Rangers just at this moment in time are of good character, and there's good lads, ambitious lads. Most of them youngsters, and men like Peter McCloy that survived a long time at Rangers, and Ala Dawson, they are men of good character.
I still sincerely believe that it's the Rangers tradition and the Rangers reputation that still makes this club one of the greatest in the world. And that still applies, because even now, as I look back and see young fellas coming in the door here, and you just have to look at their faces and the pride that's there, just becoming, not just coming in to play football, just because it's in that front door down there.
Among the thousands of Scots who are Rangers fans are many showbiz stars. Andy Cameron, for example, seldom misses a game and still remembers the first time he saw the Jar.
A Glasgow Cup final, I'm sure it was, and it was at Hampden, of course, and needless to say we won. We beat Partick Thistle 2-0, and I remember Duncan Stanners was the centre half, and I was so disappointed because I hadn't seen Willie Woodburn. It might have been my first game, it might have been 3rd or 4th, but one of my relatives tells me that I was at the Moscow Dynamo game, but I don't have any memories of that at all, you know, and I think if I'd been there I would have had some memories, you know.
And Andy's favourite players at that time?
Well, Woodburn, obviously. Big Ben was obviously my favourite, you know, but I loved Diddle Doddle, who didn't he, you know, and Wally Thornton, and Geordie Young. The team was just loaded with great names, you know. It was superb. David Cooper's my favourite at the present, on form, you know, but anybody that pulls a jersey early sees my favourite player. If you ask me my favourite player of all time, I've not got a bonnet on, but I'd need to take it off to mention Jimmy Miller. Jimmy Miller, to me, epitomises all that a Rangers player should be. He had a lot of skill, but he had more than that. He had true grit, the old cliche. He had that. I remember Jimmy Miller if somebody stuck it on him, you know, there was none of this whining at the referee or anything like that. Jimmy just sort of took his number and he got him back in his own fashion. In fact, here at this stadium, we have about 60,000 people present. We played Kilmarnock and Dido was the manager of Kilmarnock at the time. We finished up with 1-6-1, but Jackie McGrory, the centre half, stuck it on Jimmy Miller early doors. And about 3 minutes to go, everybody's saying, what's up with Jimmy? He's not got him back. And all of a sudden there's a free kick and he does that to Baxter, you know, just give me it up here, and he goes up and his elbow found its way to Jackie McGrory's nose, and that was the end of Jackie McGrory for that particular day.
And what of Jock Wallace?
I think Big Jock's magic. He's a punter. He's a fan, you know. And having said that, I've been a friend of Jock's when he was the manager here the first time, and then my pal John get the job, and I mean, there's nothing to say about that. It's all been said before. But Big Jock's the type of guy that everybody says, if you don't play well, you're up and down the sand dunes. But I think there's more to the man than that. I think he's proved that with Leicester City and with Rangers before as well. I think he'll certainly get them out of the doldrums, and I think we'll start winning things again. You know?
One of Andy's comic predecessors was another great Rangers fan, Lex McLean.
Oh, I saw Lex as a comic. He was my favourite comedian, you know, and not because he was a Rangers fan, because I thought the guy was top of the tree at his job. He was a great Rangers punter. I saw Lex on many occasions.
I was reading there in the papers there where the football gates are going down. I was talking to a Rangers supporter recently there. I said, haven't you seen at the games lately? He said, no, I haven't been since I got married. The wife will not let me go. I said, the wife will not let you go. I said, she's what kind of man are you? I said, my wife tried that. She said, you're not going to the match. I just grabbed her, put her over my knee, took her pants down and smacked her backside so I could go. I've been to every game since. She said, I'd like to see you on Saturday. So Saturday comes, they're still not there. So I seen her for a week. I said, didn't see you at the game? She said, no, the wife wouldn't let me go. I said, no, do what I told you. She said, as a matter of fact, I did. I put her over my knee, took her pants down, then I says to myself, oh, Rangers are not so hot this season. Dear Mr. McLean, could you help me with my problem? I am 32. I have 2 brothers. One works for Willie Waddle and is an ardent Ranger supporter. The other is in Berlin for arson and rape. My father, who is a fine man, is at present living on the earnings of my sister, who is a good pitch in Bath Street. My mother is having a baby to the man next door, and in view of this, my father refuses to marry her. I have met a charming, delightful girl,